It's great. It is great to be here in Columbia again. I've been here a couple times. Of course, I haven't been to the new ballpark, and this is an incredible ballpark facility and for the city. And I do remember coming through Columbia a few times with the Braves on our press caravan during the off season, during the winter, and have some great memories. Although it was kind of short coming through here and meeting the Braves fans here, but it's always great to be back. So I appreciate the Fireflies and the opportunity to connect with fans of the Fireflies and Braves fans that are here as well. So it's a lot of fun to be back here in Columbia.
Dale, can you talk about your connection also to South Carolina? I believe you played a year for the Greenwood Braves.
Greenwood, yeah. I played in Greenwood in 1975. A lot of people, when I say I played in South Carolina, of course they think I played in Greenville. I didn't play in Greenville. I played in Greenwood and had a great time in Greenwood. I didn't play very well. I think I hit about 250 and hit 5 home runs. That was my first long season, 140 games, and I only had 5 home runs, so it wasn't much to remember, except that what I remember about Greenwood was Sunday afternoons after the game, the fans putting out a big potluck for the players, and so I had great memories of playing in Greenwood, and I believe at that time it was called the Western Carolina League. So traveled around in this area, and of course played a couple exhibition games in Greenville as when the Braves were there with their Double-A team, and they have one of the best, I believe, probably one of the best minor league teams in the history of baseball with Chipper Jones and that group that came through. But yeah, I have great memories about being here in South Carolina, and it's always fun to come back.
What advice do you give guys at this level who are trying to kind of work their career and work their way up?
Well, this is, I usually tell guys, especially their first year, rookie league, A-ball, even into Double-A, but especially when you're young and just getting started, I always tell them if you're not homesick and feel like quitting and going home, then you're ahead of me. I mean, it's guys from all over the world, literally nowadays, the game has expanded, and prospects from literally all over the world. It's not home, and it's going to be tough. You're going to be struggling, and so I usually tell them the basic thing is just to keep going, showing up, and playing hard. And back when I played, everybody said, well, give it about 5 years. You kind of know where you stand and if you're going to have a shot at making it. So, that was my plan. I'm sure everybody, all the kids that are playing now, trying to make it to the big leagues, kind of have an idea of where they're at and going to give it a shot. And if, but I understand the challenges, the ups and the downs, because, you're entering leagues, you're coming from leagues where you were one of the top players in that league, whether it was college or high school, and now you're competing against all the players that were the top players in their leagues, and the top players from the Dominican and Mexico and parts of Japan now and all over the world. So it's just really tough. So the main thing you gotta figure out is how to have some really good positive self-talk every day. And the most important thing you can do is figure out how to play hard every day, no matter what happened yesterday.
Achieving and playing at such a high level, do you still love the game?
Yeah, I love the game. I miss the game. The first 5 years after I retired was really difficult because you think you can still play. But, now I know I can't play anymore, but the feeling when you get around the ballpark or spring training time, you still get those feelings wishing you could get out there. And so I love the game and I miss it. I think you always you're gonna miss being out there, but now at my age, I know I think I've finally given up the fact that I can make a comeback. So but being out there is, there's nothing like it. That's why it's so fun to go to spring training and be around the young players nowadays.
Bill and Alta, how much are you around the game these days?
Well, I was doing a few things part-time with the Braves a couple of years ago, so I would do a little bit of traveling around, see some of their minor league players. And right now I'm not affiliated in a full or part-time basis. I do occasional things with the Braves, but I got a few things going on. And to be a coach or to be associated with the game, it's very challenging schedule. And I live out west. I live in Utah, so I'm not living in the Atlanta area. Probably if I was living in the Atlanta area, I'd probably be able to do a few more things.
Sticking with the Braves theme, were you a little bitter? Not bitter, but were you a little upset that you missed the '90s teams
Yeah.
winning the championship? Because you left in what, '89, '90?
Yeah, I was traded in '90, and they went to the World Series in '91, so it wasn't very good timing. But no, I looking back, obviously I wish I could have been a part of all that excitement that happened, throughout the '90s. But it was really time for me to move on. I really felt that, and I had a good experience playing in Philadelphia and Colorado for a short time in Colorado, and I started getting hurt, and things I couldn't keep playing. I understood that, but I have no regrets about. I'm very thankful for the years I had with the Braves. I mean, I wouldn't have had a career without the Braves. So I had great experiences there, and I'm very thankful for it. It comes time to move on. As we know, there's very few guys, Chipper being one of them, Derek Jeter, and very few others that I can think of. Even think about Greg Maddux and Smoltz and Glav. They all played with different teams, and so I knew there was going to be a time when I was going to move on, and it felt right to go at that time. But certainly, I guess you could say I was jealous for sure. I mean, that would have been a lot of fun. Looked like they were having a lot of fun.
What's it like to meet your fans at this point in your life and career?
Oh, I think to be able to meet fans now of the old days when I played is something I probably appreciate more now than, well, while you're playing, you're kind of concentrating on your playing, and now to be able to reconnect with Braves fans really throughout the country, not only here in the Southeast, is something I think all of us that played back then appreciate more and more. The older you get, it's just a natural part of life. The older you get, the more you understand and appreciate the opportunities you have. While you're in the middle of it, in your mid-20s or early 30s, you just kind of think this is what you do and you're going to do this forever. And I was done at 37 years when I was 37 years old, and it just was over before you know it. So to be able to be invited and reconnect with Braves fans, whether it's here in Columbia or wherever it is, it's a lot of fun, and just baseball fans in general. It's great. It's a great game. Got a lot of good things going on. The Braves are playing well. I know the Fireflies are playing the Phillies tonight. They got some good things going too, and there's just it's a lot of fun to reconnect, I guess is the best way to put it.
Building off that, though, the Braves fan base is unique, that it's not just really in a small region, it's like the entire Southeast.
Yeah.
You can consider Braves country. Does that make it even more enjoyable at this stage of your life to go to so many different spots in the Southeast to be fans?
Yeah, it really to be able to play for the Atlanta Braves in the 80s during the time of TBS is the best way to put it. It's just really unique. There weren't any teams in Florida, and TBS, us and the Cubs on WGN, the Braves on TBS. It is throughout the Southeast. There's the obvious regional connection, and then I've been to Hawaii, I've been to North Dakota, all over since I've retired. And I guess the best way to put it is I ran into a guy the other day. He goes, "I'm a TBS kid," and I think that's the best way to explain it. Kids grew up that are in their I can't do my math too well, 30s and 40s, or were TBS kids. They grew up watching the Braves every night, and people told Ted Turner that it wasn't going to work, and they also told him 24-hour news wasn't going to work as well. And it was a lot of fun when we were playing well. Of course, when we were on every day and we weren't playing well, it wasn't that much fun. But I have to mention too, I think one of the great things about that era with the Braves, and after that as well, but the early 80s and the great teams they had in the 90s. But especially the 80s, because we didn't always win and it wasn't always that entertaining, was Skip Carey, Pete Van Wieren, and Ernie Johnson, our announcers. Our broadcast team did an amazing job of bringing it felt like a local broadcast. Of course, in this part of the country, it was somewhat of a local broadcast, but throughout the country, or wherever you had a dish in the world, you saw a local broadcast, as opposed to what I grew up on and most people grew up on was a national broadcast from a broadcast team that didn't really know the players, just came in and did a broadcast. But those guys were a part of our team, and they were a hometown broadcast, and they were great. Should all be in the Hall of Fame, people connected because of their greatness, I think, at broadcasting the game and giving it a hometown flavor. You know, they were on the bus with us and on the plane rides, and they knew us and would give us the little inside thing about, you know, some of us, and I think everybody saw a hometown broadcast that really connected the fans to those Braves teams of the I guess it started in the late 70s and 80s, and from then on the TBS days.
I was a TBS kid, Dale. I'm
Thank
43
you.
years old. I'm one of those, in the 80s, so
Wow,
math's
thank you.
fine. Looking back in your career now, how aware are you still of specific pitchers that you had success against and ones that you struggled against?
Well, I remember vaguely the ones I had success against. I think you mostly remember the ones that you're still trying to figure out. How come I couldn't hit that guy? But when it's a name like Nolan Bryan or Oral Hershiser, you look back and you go, oh yeah, that's why I couldn't hit those guys. But there are some guys that, you know, people have told me, I really wasn't aware of it. I know I had a good success against. One of them was, you know, since we were in the Western Division back then, was Fernando, and I know he was one of the best pitchers that I had a good average against.
Yeah.
My lifetime average was 265 or so, and I think I hit over 300 against
318. So
yeah,
I did my homework last night. So.
What's that?
I did my homework last night.
You did your homework, yeah.
And
Thanks for bringing up Fernando and not any of those other guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, you remember vaguely things. I mean, it's people don't realize. People forget, I should say. I've been done 25 years. I mean, it's amazing when you think about it, how long I've been done. But yeah, you remember. You don't remember specifics. I think some of my ex-teammates put it best. You don't really remember too many specifics. You remember just, you know, being with your team. I think everybody, when they retire from whatever they do in life, you miss being part of a team, part of something, whatever your profession is. We're all parts of teams, and we're kind of a unique team in a professional baseball team. So that's what I miss, and that's what I remember the guys. But you know, I think one of my favorite stories about facing old pitchers is Greg Maddux. Now, people don't realize how much I faced him with the Cubs. And when he came to the Braves, and I was retired, of course, I went up to him in spring training, and I go, hey, it's great to have you with the Braves. You know, you're doing great and all that stuff. And I looked at him, I go, you know, I hated facing you. And, you know, he just got that little smile, you know. He knew that I didn't do very well against him. I said, you know, I think that was 4 for 26 off you. And he looked at me and he goes, 2 for 26. So actually, it was worse than that.
It's actually 2 for 34.
Yes, I found out.
I was going to ask you if he was someone who kind of gave you a hard time.
No, he just told me, you know, he goes, Murph, I never got you out. You got yourself out. And that's what he did. He knew my weaknesses, and his strength was he didn't make a lot of mistakes. You know, that his control was remarkable. What you hit as a hitter is a mistake, whether it's location, when they mislocate. And if you study Greg's career, you know that he didn't miss very seldom. I mean, there's a remarkable statistics about how many people he walked during his career, but not only that, how many people he went to a 3-ball count. And if young pitchers could figure that out, is also his percentage of first pitch strikes. It's unbelievable. So he didn't make many mistakes.
baseball is kind of a special sport. Whenever you think about maybe tradition and also camaraderie. One question for you, being a little bit removed from the game and MVP status, what's better, being in the dugout or being on the field?
Well, you're always happy to be a part of things especially when you get to the big leagues. You're like, I'll do whatever they want. You always want to get a chance to get out there and show what you can do. Sometimes you understand eventually that you're not an everyday player, that you have a specific role and maybe a pinch hitter, and you may not be a part of everyday lineup. So there's no question. Now the challenge is that when you're not an everyday player, it's even harder to play and be successful, because it's easier to be an everyday player, if that makes any sense. It's harder, but it's also easier to get in a rhythm. And so you're happy to be a part of the team in any way, but everybody wants to get out there and show what they can do.
At the end of your career, you go from, you're coming up and you have flashes of brilliance, and then you become MVP, and then of course as you kind of lose your prime, are you the first kind of aware of that, of feeling your skills kind of eroding, or is it kind of like more, I'm just in a slump? I know the media, whenever a guy is 36 years old has a slump, he's washed up. You're 25 years old and it's a slump.
Yeah.
So like, how aware do you feel it? In terms of, you playing every day, and all of a sudden you feel like, man, that pitch I would have handled 2 years ago. Yeah. Or is that how it? Yeah,
you are. You are aware. You try to fight that feeling of why did I miss that pitch? How come I couldn't turn on that fastball? When you get into your mid-30s, and so you really have to fight that, because it's a real challenge. Chipper Jones, of course, what I love about his career, Mike Schmidt. There's a few others. Tommy. There's not a lot. Jeter, obviously, those that have remained, and there are a few others, but remain productive to the end of their career. Maybe taper off a little, but still have productive at bats. It's remarkable, because the psychology of your performance out there in your game is critical. You can be healthy at 36, 37, but if you think that you're just a touch slow, that's a real problem. And Chipper Jones said it best. He said at the beginning of the career, the game's too fast. You're trying to catch up to it, and in your prime, it slows down, and you're working it, and you can feel it. And then at the end of your career, it gets too fast again. And so the real challenge is to fight through that. And it's a psychological thing, but deep down that it could be part physical. And that's what happens. It just eventually you can't quite turn on the fastball. One of the challenges, not to get too technical about hitting, but you have to think on hitting a fastball that you have to think you're going to be quick enough and you can stay back and hit it and react. Well, what happens is psychologically, when you all of a sudden think, well, I'm not quick enough, so I have to go early, well, that makes you susceptible to breaking balls and balls away. So all of a sudden you're going early to catch up to a fastball that may not be there, as opposed to your younger days when you were confident. All you thought about was, it doesn't matter, I'm quick enough. And so you start making you start compensating, and it snowballs, and that's why guys have to retire. Probably one of the bigger challenges for a player as he's getting older is his mind as much as his body. But there's some real limitations to the body. But boy, psychologically, if you're not out there knowing that you can compete, you're beat before you get out there.
So what? You just feel it? You just know when to swing?
Yeah. There's a couple things that happen as you get more experience. That helps you, maybe anticipate certain things in the game. Whereas if you have less experience, but you got more youth and athletic ability, it kind of makes up for that. So right in the middle of your career, you got a perfect blend of experience and athletic ability. And at the end, you got really good experience, but you're slowing down. And it's not that your mind, kind of doesn't know, it's just your body doesn't react as quick. It's like playing an old timers game. I can't see anymore very well or hear, but I played an old timers game. It must have been at least 10 years ago, and they're just throwing 50 miles an hour or something, just slow batting practice. And I said, oh, I can hit that, and all of a sudden I went to hit it, and just it didn't work, you know. It's like it just lagged behind my mind and what my brain was telling me I could have been able to do, it's just a really odd. It's a really odd, and it can be very discouraging because you've done it your whole year, and all of a sudden, sometimes it's boom, it's over. And I had a pretty quick decline. Part of it was my knees were, you know, a little messed up and things like that. But I admire guys. I think Mike Schmidt, actually, I'd have to study it, but you know, he was at the end of his career, he was hitting 280, 290, 300 more than he was earlier in his career. And that's a remarkable thing. Very challenging.
When you go to these games and you watch this next generation, what part of the game do you watch and say, wow, that has really changed?
Well, there's a number of things. These guys have played so much more baseball than we did at their age, you know, and their swings are better. Their stuff, as far as the pitchers are concerned, is, you know, we all know that a lot more pitchers were throwing harder than the old days. Their athleticism, the things they do around the bag, shortstop and second baseman, is incredible. I think if you just look at some highlights, you know, from 20, 30 years ago on YouTube, and you see what they're doing now, it's just they're really fun to watch. We've never had a situation in baseball where the best players have been this young, and some of them are with the Braves. Albies at second base for one. Freddie Freeman at first, but the Astros, you look at that team, Altuve at second, and Bryce Harper. There's kind of a whole group of guys who are really young, so it's amazing to see that they're that young and that good and that athletic.
You said earlier your original plan was to give yourself 5 years and you're in Greenwood, see if you made it. If you hadn't have made it, what would you have done? What if Dale Murphy had become the game of baseball?
That's a good question. Well, I don't know. I mean, I probably would have just, I don't know. I was very lucky as I grew up to have coaches that I admired and I really enjoyed. So I had PE teachers that, you know, that was my favorite thing in school, was to get out and play. So I don't know. The first thing I think of is probably would have gone somewhere and got a teaching certificate, maybe coach and be a PE teacher. I can't think of anything better than that.
One more. Everybody's got it.
All right.